thank those who have been here on time. Thanks for being here. I know this is a hot topic, and I'm looking forward to learning from all of you. I want to stay in touch, and I don't want to be out of touch with reality. So I'm sure as I learn from you, there'll be some things you will be able to pick up from not just myself, but other participants that are on the call. Again, let me say a big thank you for being here on time. So let me check with you quickly. If you could see my screen, just type in the chat room that you can, so that Fatima, who is co-facilitating with me, can do the needful in case you can't. So let's know that you can see my screen. Okay. So Fatima, please help with the waiting room. There are people in the waiting room, bring them in. And those of you who are on already, please use the chat room. If you have any question as we go along, put them in the chat room as well. I will love to hear from you as we go. It's going to be interactive. I have just half an hour to present my thoughts, and I want you to just place your comments in the chat room. So thank you all for being here, and hopefully at the end of the half hour, we will all have something we can take away and work on personally, and for those of us working in businesses, also for the businesses we work in. So thank you for those who are already dropping their comments in the chat room. Excellent. So I move on very quickly now. And the topic you know already, we're talking about the cost of living crisis that we're facing now. And in terms of what you should expect, we'll have this conversation in 4 buckets. The last bucket for me is the meat of the conversation. And that starts with, so we're starting with first taking a stock of how we got here. Then asking a rhetorical question, must we spend? It may sound ridiculous, but I think it's a question we should ask. And yes, since we must spend, how do we spend? Hopefully we'll cover that quickly, and then we go into at least a 15-minute conversation on some solutions to the current squeeze that we are all feeling in terms of our purchasing power. So I move then to the first one, which has to do with the question of whether we should spend or we shouldn't. I'm moving a bit too fast.
Hello, sir, please. Sorry, your screen is not on slideshow.
Okay, I thought it was. No wonder. Thank you very much for that, Fatima. Oh, great. So the first question then is, I don't know, where's my slide? Okay. How did we get to where we are? Where are we? I mean, basically, subsidy on PMS had been removed. That had triggered inflation.
Sorry, I'm coming again. So sorry, your screen is just rolling. We can't move. We can't see the next slide. You are sharing.
Okay, so let me do something. Stop sharing and reshare, and see if that will help. Just bear with me. Let me try it again. Okay, cost of living. There we go. So how is it now?
It's good, but it's on presentation show.
Okay. Let me check if it works now. Can you see it? Is it visible for you?
It can end presentation show, right? Click and end presentation show.
So I should stop it from presentation share.
Yes, so it's just slideshow.
Get it out.
Right click, sir.
Keep slides updated. Next
Hide presenter view. Hide presenter view.
Where is my presenter view? I'm looking for it.
Just above your screen.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. So it was sharing the screen, splitting the screen for you.
Yes.
Wow, I can't see my screen now. I hope you can see the presentation.
I can't see any presentation. It went off.
Okay, let me check why you can't. What can you see now?
Nothing, sir.
Amazing. So I go back. So Zoom. Okay. Okay. I'm going to try. Okay, nothing is shared now. Okay, so. Okay. So you can see my screen now, I believe.
Yes, slideshow, sir, and then we're good to go.
So it's okay now, right?
No, put it on slideshow and then we can.
Oh, sorry. Okay, just a moment. Please bear with us. Let me take.
It's perfect. It's perfect now.
It is showing subtitles, so let me take it out. Okay, I believe it's perfectly okay now.
Great, sir. Good to go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Fatima, for facilitating that. So that ate into my time a bit, but don't worry, we'll still cover what we need to cover. So how did we get here? Back to the story. Most of the time, we'll be blaming our leaders, and you can see from the headline inflation by past presidents, all of them have experienced high inflation and some deep in inflation as well. But we had it good in the early days of Obasanjo, when inflation was really below 5% for some period. And it was in single digits in Yar'Adua period as well, before it rose again. And in Jonathan era, we experienced periods of single digit inflation. Then the Buhari era, the 8 years. The closest we went to single digit was around 11, 12%. So the story here is that economic crisis is a constant, irrespective of the regime you look at. We will always refer to the previous regime as being better, but the truth is that in all of these regimes, we've always had price escalation, some kind of squeeze in purchasing power relative to the past, and economic crisis is a constant. So we need to be prepared for it. What we're experiencing now is not new. If you look at the past, like we've seen, it is not a situation that we can wish away. So, and the solution is not a one-size-fits-all. Fortunately, for most of us, the challenge is we need to review our financial literacy. I'm saying that carefully because I don't want to sound insensitive, but the reality I have come to, for me personally, and for most people around me, is that, look, if you are prepared, and the preparation takes time, you can face any dip in the economic fortune of the country and still go through it in a way that you'll still be fine. I may be sounding elitist because of my current placement in life, but let me tell you, if I tell you my own story, my background was very rough. and I've gone through all kinds of phases in life. And I know many of you probably share similar experiences. So it has a lot to do with how we prepare for the rainy days. It's true for individuals and it's true for the country. And unless we take personal responsibilities, we'll keep pointing fingers at those who created the situation, the environment that is challenging us. And we are right to do that. It is okay for us to identify them, as those who have created the mess. However, the mess that have been created can still be managed as regards our individual needs without getting buried by the mess. And as they have a role to play to create the right environment for us to thrive, we also have a role to play in preparing either to thrive when they create the right environment or to survive in a decent way when they don't create such an environment. And I'm not making reference now to social crusading. Some of us have that role to play, to hold government to account and so on and so forth. But now I'm talking to employees, employers, and even the unemployed. Yes, some of us will have the role to play in social crusading, but for those of us who don't, how do we survive, all these economic crises that are created by our leaders, by different regimes from time to time, at federal, states, and even local level. So whenever we face those challenges, the next thing that comes to mind is, and the question is, what do we need to spend to start with? Do we need to spend? And of course, the obvious answer that will come from anyone is, of course, we need to spend. But in spending, we need, especially when we are facing this kind of situation, we need to scrutinize every spending decision that we make. So it's a crisis already. And in this crisis, the cost of living the life that we are used to had escalated. And the revenue we've been generating that either had been enough or barely enough or slightly more than enough to fund the life that we are used to has suddenly become of less value and no longer sufficient to fund that life that we are used to. So what then do we do? There's a mismatch between the value we can get out of the income that we've always had, and so it's no longer enough to give the life that we're already used to. Then what do we do? One of two options. Since the income for most of us had dropped below the cost of living the life that we know, we either adjust the income to meet that cost of living the life we know, or we adjust the life we know to meet the income that we now have, or the value we can get out of the income that we have, or we move both of them to meet somewhere in the middle. Raise the income a bit and drop the life that we know to a cost level that the income can meet. My focus will be more on dropping the cost of the life that we live. Discipline is required to do that. And how you create that discipline is what this is all about. So we need to first evaluate all that we spend on. If you look at the life you live now, for most of us, it's about going to work, returning home, and going to our places of worship, returning home. For some, maybe we have a little to spare for supporting members of our families, relations, and friends, and neighbors, and communities. And for some, we even have a little more to throw into celebrations and owambes and other things. So for all these expenses, we need to challenge each and every one of them. So make a list of all these important expenses or unimportant expenses, as the case may be, and rank them by 2 factors. How important are they on a scale of 1 to 10? How urgent are they on a scale of 1 to 10? Based on that, you can easily chart them on a 9-grid box. HR practitioners, most of us will use the 9-grid box, where the vertical axis is how important they are, and the horizontal axis is how urgent they are. The most urgent will be to your right, and the less urgent will be to your left. The most important will be at the top. The least important will be at the bottom. So for those things that are really, really important, highly important, and urgent, you have that at the top right corner. So those are the items that you must have and you need now. If I ask you for examples of that, food, you need to eat. We're not talking of the type of food now. We're just talking about food for you to be healthy, to have the vitality to work. So you need to eat, and you need to eat now. Okay, so that is urgent. That is important. It's very important, and it's urgent. So if it is good to have, not so important, but also important, it's good to have, but it's not a must have. If you don't have it, you won't die. New clothing, there's an outfit that you've always admired, and is the right outfit for either an official or social event that has a dress code. So there is a social event or there's an official event, and they say that you should come in tuxedo or black tie. It's a black tie event. Well, it's good to have the right outfit for the event. And the event is now, and it's important you show up there, because if you don't, it will affect some other things. Well, why not? You could show up there and have an outfit that's acceptable, even though it may not be the exact dress code, but it's presentable, it's decent enough. So they're talking of black tie event, and you don't have tuxedo or any of those kind of particular outfit, but you have maybe a pair of trousers and suit that you could wear, or jacket that you could wear that is still presentable, then you can make a choice. So that's not a must have. It's a good to have, but it's also needed now, and so on and so forth. There are things that are nice to have. So many things that are nice to have. It's nice to have cufflink for your dress. Nice to have wristwatch, good one that works. Nice to have an iPhone or a Samsung, whatever series is trendy. And you need a phone now. It doesn't have to be those high-end phones. It has to be smartphone, because you need it to do some work. So you need to challenge everything that you spend on. People will say, oh, data is life. Data is must have. Yeah, if data is what you use to generate income, and the income you generate with the data is far more than the data, it will be a must have. But if the data is used to entertain yourself on social media platforms, well, you have to take a decision whether that is a good to have or is a must have. So you must challenge everything. Nothing is beyond question. Nothing. The food you eat, the medication you take, the supplements you take, the dresses you wear, the phone you use, the kind of accommodation you have, your vehicle. When people talk about, oh, this is a tough period, the cost of filling my tank has gone to 40,000 naira. The question is, what kind of tank does your vehicle have? Do you need that kind of vehicle at a time like this? Do we think Indians that ride small vehicles and not SUVs like we do are stupid? They are not. They pay $1 plus for a liter of fuel. And they took that decision that having a SUV is not a must-have. So SUV is common in Nigeria. They say it's because our roads are bad. True. But it's a matter of balancing it. So the road is so bad that we have to ride SUVs. We know the kind of expense we'll incur to fuel such vehicles. So it's about challenging all the elements that we spend on. So by the time you do, what you will end up with on this 9 grid box is some items will be essentials that you must spend on. And you may have a room to adjust, maybe on the type of item that you use to fulfill that must have. For instance, food is a must have, but I can eat in a 5-star restaurant, or I eat in a mama put, or I cook my own food. Even when I cook my own food, I can buy the groceries from a superstore or from a neighborhood store, or I go to the open market where I can haggle with Mama Sikira and buy at deal price, and so on and so forth. So there are options that you can even play with within the must-have. That's one. And you discover that some are containable. What you see on this chart that's shown as containable are in green. You know, the good to have but not urgent, the nice to have and not urgent. In fact, you shouldn't be spending on those. And the nice to have and can wait a little. So honestly, even if you have the money to spend on those, that money should be dropped in some interest yielding accounts as savings for the rainy days. At this period we're in, what you should be spending on should be those items in the red grid, red boxes on the grid. So now that we've more or less, just a moment, there's a freeze, okay. So now that we are clear about why we spend and what we should be spending on, how to spend. Again, I repeat what I said earlier, prioritize the essentials. The items that are required, going back to them, these green boxes and these light yellow boxes may appear white on your hand. All these light yellow and green boxes, they are items that can either wait because they are not urgent, or they can wait because they're only nice to have. They can wait, meaning you don't have to spend on them now. So your spend, those items are the containables, you know. The good to have, they are required, but they are probably not urgent or they can wait a little. You don't have to spend on them now. So it's about prioritizing what you spend on. Again, people talk about investing. Is this a good time to invest? Well, it depends on what you're investing on. So if you're investing on a venture that has guaranteed or more or less guaranteed, you know, predictable regular income, it makes sense. You can invest on those. But there are investments that you do not have such level of guarantee. It doesn't make sense to invest on such at this time. It's not a good time to start looking for taking risk. You must have a budget. So your budget must focus on the essentials. So let's now go into practical things that you could do to even reduce your spend on the essentials. So we said some items are essential items. Food is, you have to go to work, so you have to transport yourself to work. Those are essentials. Some of the suggestions there will sound funny. And believe me, it was funny in Nigeria some 7 years ago, 10 years ago, if you ask people to switch off the light when they are leaving the office. In fact, we used to make it a major campaign. If you ask people to switch off the light when they are leaving their homes, they will look at you like, what are you talking about? I will leave it on so that when I return, I will know if NEPA has brought the light or not. But the truth now is dawning on all of us. For those who pay 65 naira per unit to the distribution companies, the light energy distribution companies, be it Eco, DC, or Ibadan Electricity Distribution, or Benin, or Kano, or Kaduna, you know now, or Abuja, you know, nobody tells you to switch off the light. You do switch it off simply because now it is pinching. So some of the suggestions I'll be making now will be as funny as those suggestions sounded 7 years ago. Let's look at food, which is one essential. Let's look at transport, another essential. By parenting, I'm talking of what we spend on our children. And medical is another essential. Then emergencies, which you can't even define, but these are matters that will border on survivor sometimes. How do you contain or curtail your expenses on these essentials that are must have and urgent? You must have them and you must have them now. So food. One good idea is bulk purchases for those who can afford it. And for those who cannot afford it, you can actually identify people of like mind that you can cooperate with. Form a food cooperative and buy in bulk. So instead of you buying in small bits, you put all the small bits together, you pull your money together, and you buy in bulk. Some people have been doing this over the years. I would say those are the people that are living in the future. They were living in the future already, and that future is there now. People will buy a cow and share the beef. People will buy a goat and share the meat. People will buy bags of rice and share, and so on and so forth. This is important because with the galloping inflation that we're experiencing, the prices will keep climbing. The money you keep at home today, waiting to make it up so you could buy in bulk, by the time you make it up in 2 weeks' time, the price will have gone out of reach. So it's better you buy now. Zero waste, rationing. Well, when I was growing up, you'll be beaten silly if you leave any food in your plate that you do not finish. So rather than get the family overfed by serving too much, that at the end of the day, people will not throw in the waste bin. It's better to ration and allow people to finish it and ask for more. Anyway, our women know how to do that better than anyone else. I'll just touch on examples here, and we can discuss more in the Q&A session. So the other bit is food bank or food loan. What does a bank do? A bank provides loan to subscribers. We can have people subscribe, especially in the workplace. Honestly, like minds are easier to find in the workplace. For those who live in neighborhood, you can subscribe to a food fund and you contribute your bits, and people will have record of what they've contributed. When you have enough, take advantage of deals. Buy and keep. Have a member that can be trusted. Well, sometimes it's difficult to find such people these days, but they still exist. And everybody can go there to draw from what they've contributed. I can talk more about it when we are doing Q&A. Such will enable you also to buy closer to the source. Instead of waiting for those that will bring the food from the hinterlands to the urban areas or the cities, you can actually generate transport fare for your cooperative member to go to the hinterlands and buy in bulk. And the cost of transportation can easily be spread on the bulk that you've bought, and you have cheaper unit value for your purchases. Then you can have food stamp, which is similar to subscribing to food bank and all that. For transportation, that's my favorite. we still have a lot of our colleagues that ride to the office alone in the car or alone with their drivers. It doesn't make sense. We can talk to those who have such facilities and identify where they work and put it out for everybody who live, where they live. So people who live around them can choose to travel with them or ride with them. I had a colleague who has a car and he brings the car to the office only when he needs to move items because he could not afford to fuel the car anymore as he used to. So there are 5 seats in the car. He drives himself. We are talking about finding other people that live in his neighborhood. If we can find 2 or 3 more, they can share the cost of fueling the car. Each should bear the cost of maintaining the car, and they will share the ride and save a lot of money. So, pulling buses, pulling cars, well, this may sound funny to you, trekking and biking group. For those who live in neighborhoods that are close enough to the office, instead of wasting money on, taking buses or cars to the office, they can actually agree to walk down to the office in a group or ride bicycles in a group. It will be fun. Well, I know you'll be thinking of safety and other risks like security and so on. There are ways organizations can facilitate that by, registering such groups and providing surveillance on the route, as well as providing emergency responses in case they run into problems, maybe hoodlums or other miscreants, disturbing them. There are ways this could be worked out, and it will be cheaper for everybody at the end of the day. Of course, working from home is another option. Moving the work closer home or moving the home closer to work. People can either relocate closer to the office or arrangement for some kind of hostel accommodation during the week for people that live far away from the office. People that live in Agbado and work in Apapa. Arrangement could be made where they can have bunk sleeping provision, and everybody pays a little for the space, and they go home on weekends to their families. For parents, education is a must, but we can eliminate all the nice to haves. There are nice to haves, you pay for clubs, you pay for this, you pay for that, extracurricular activities. Well, I'm not saying stop all those balance dimensions of education, but you can find options that are free or cheaper, that could cover for that for now, for this difficult period. The textbooks that your kid use for a particular grade, some other kids will need it, kids that are coming to that grade, and your kid is going to the next grade, can also get books that others have used in the next grade. It's good when, even for those who work in the same offices, they can talk about these needs of their kids. And you may find a swapping opportunity right in the office. So more like forming a book club where you can share inventory of the books that your own children have with others who may need them. And instead of buying everything new, and what your kid had used, they end up in your basement, your kid can give to those who need and also take from those who have. And if there is a little to pay extra on it, why not? You can negotiate a deal, more like getting it at half the value or used book value. We've talked about sharing, even for children. As you share as parents to work, your children can share going to school. They can also trek. They can also ride bicycles. These are all options that we all have to start thinking about. Security is always an issue of concern, but it could be arranged either with the employer or the community, and all of us should get our hearts together and stop paying for the inefficiencies in the society. The same thing applies to clothing. You can have a clothes bank. The children grow fast, and they outgrow their clothing quickly. If they don't have younger siblings that can use it, this is a good opportunity to form clubs where such are gathered, laundered, and made available to those who need them. Rather than buy new dresses, but a button is missing, a zipper is broken, we can learn some skills at this time. Sew or mend the clothing that we have, and teach our children to do some laundry as well, and even some repair work on their own clothing. Replace a broken button or replace a zipper. I remember I was sewing when I was age 11, 12. My dad was a tailor, he taught me to sew. Same thing for medical, we need to make provisions. But more important is to prevent sickness. So get food supplements, immune boosters and all that. This is the time to do it so that we don't pay a huge bill falling sick, especially now that doctors go on strike from time to time. And you should always keep a little cash in emergency. You say, where will the cash come from? The truth is, by the time you scrutinize all your expenses, you will find opportunities to save something. The cash we're talking about here is for basic things like anti-malaria or pain relievers. You should have those handy. Most of our children, that's what they will come up with from time to time. And we must have some emergency savings on the side, to take care of those. I need to close it now, so let me talk about what employers could do. Employers could encourage all of these things that I mentioned earlier, facilitate them. Things that we're doing around transportation, around food, around medical, and so on and so forth. It's all about collaboration. It's all about cooperating. And it's always helpful when employers can facilitate that. Though in facilitating that, employers should not take the legal responsibilities. It should be the decisions of the employees. The same thing in the community, for those who are not employed, the decision has to be made by like minds, and sometimes you even reduce them to some form of documented written agreements that will be binding. There should be no coercion. If an employee wants to participate, if you don't want to, you can't force it. So employers can encourage working from home, moving the home closer to work, the hostel arrangement I mentioned earlier on. Employers have the more resources to acquire space and make it easy to use, for people to stay over during the work week and go home on weekends. Maybe they pay a token for it, and some of the investment can be recovered. Carpooling should be encouraged, the biking group, the trekking group, the food bank for subscribers, the school book swapping arrangement can be facilitated by employers, just getting the information out there. For those of you that have kids of particular grades, the text, what kind of text are they using? For those of you that have kids of other grades, what kind of text are their schools requiring? You see where the text could be swapped and is facilitated. Encouraging up cooking here. Well, sometimes some risk associated with it. We provide microwave oven. They will bring their food and they're able to get it hot when they're ready to eat. That encourages them to cook at home. Staggering the resumption time sometimes gives them the space to be able to cook at home before they come to the office. Identifying employees that are on medication and helping them to keep some supply. Providing, immunity booster. We did that during COVID period. This is a good time to do it again because some people are skipping meals and you can't but have such, okay? So a meal a day at work is a good practice. This is the time to promote it by employers and providing financial literacy training. I know this is not something that could be covered in 30, 35 minutes, but these are topics that we can explore further as we go. So these are ways employers can help at this time. So it's not all about giving more money, throwing money at it, increase salary. If you increase salary and people spend it on the wrong things, they will still come back to the same square zero. It's a period, that what will work is collaboration. What will work is the cost containment discipline. It's tough, but they are all doable. They are funny, some of them are strange, but over time, with discipline, these are life habits that we all need to begin to adapt to. And it's not just for the now, believe me, this cycle will continue till eternity. I'm not cursing Nigeria, and it's not about Nigeria alone. It's just that it's better in some places than others, it's better managed in some places than others. But the cyclic crisis, the dip and the peak in the economic fortune of different countries is a normal thing that will continue to happen till eternity. What we need to do as Nigerians is we need to adjust our habits. We need to change our habits. You know, why fuel your car with PMS when you can fuel it with liquefied petroleum gas or compressed natural gas? Other countries are doing it. So we need to change some of those habits that have been ingrained in us over the years. I'm sure you won't find mechanics at workshops washing their hands with PMS anymore, but that's what they used to do. Okay, give me 5 liters, I will need you to wash the parts that I'm repairing for you. Whereas there are solvents that are far cheaper that could be used for that purpose. Nobody does that anymore. So all those habits we will have to change. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the chat room and in the Q&A session as we explore some of this further. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, sir, for that beautiful presentation. We appreciate you. Yes, so I see some questions. I will just navigate the questions and help read it out. So someone said, George says, so recently I lost my phone on my way home and it got stolen. My question is, do I classify that as a can wait or is it urgent?
So what's the question about the lost phone, please?
Yes. So is it a can wait or is it urgent? Is the person asking, is the phone a can wait for him or is it an urgent need?
What the phone is used for would determine whether it's a can wait or a must have. So if you are using the phone to generate income, definitely is a must have, is a work tool. If you are using the phone to socialize, honestly, it is a can wait if it is purely for socializing. And you can also look at the percentage too, if you're using it for both. So if it's 50-50, yes, then it's a must have. But if it is more of socializing than working, then you should look for alternative way to cover the work part of it. When we were growing up, there was no phone. When we'll be called for jobs, we'll have to tell neighbors that could be at the other end of the street that we're expecting call, and they will send message to us while they keep the caller waiting. I'm not saying we should go back to those days, but I'm saying oftentimes we think we can't do without our phone. I would challenge that. It's only for those who use it to generate income. For those who use it to relate with the family, socialize, believe me, a phone is not a must-have.
Thank you so much for that. Someone said in the comments that I should get a Palasa phone, what we call a small phone, touchlight phone, if it's not for working. So, George, I hope that answered your question. Yes, so please, you can also unmute, you can also raise your hand so we can unmute you to ask your questions. Okay, I'm just going through the chat to see if I will see questions for you. Okay, people are agreeing, yes. If the phone is a work tool, it is important and urgent for recovery or replacement, especially if you don't have an alternative. Okay, Stella's hand is up and we are going to unmute her now.
Please go ahead, Stella. I'd like to hear from you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone.
Please go ahead, Stella. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to chip in terms of health aspect of the presentation, that the way employers through HR will also help out is to also reach out to our HMOs and find out what maybe plans or some programs, initiatives they have that can also help out employees in this time. There might be some way they can also help out. So I want to chip in that we can also help out by that way in terms of health. Thank you.
So brilliant, Stella. In actual fact, this is the time for the HMO to prove that they can be of value. So they have programs that border on education. They have programs that border on preventive measures. They have programs that border on even some immune boosters and food supplements. So it's a good time to draw them in and extract some value from them. An organization should be willing to pay where it is necessary to pay. For instance, I know the COVID period were giving people immune boosters every 2 weeks. So we'll give them 2-week dose, not just for them, even for members of their families. It's on the long run beneficial to the organization as well, because when they fall ill, when members of their families fall ill, you will pay the bill. So why not prevent illness with less amount than you will need to pay as medical bill if they should fall ill? Thank you very much for that, Stella. So somebody said, a phone is a must-have in 2023. I agree with you, but I would say challenge that paradigm by asking what you get with it. Is it for entertainment or is it for income generation? If it's not generating income for you, if you can switch it off for 24 hours and nobody will die and you will not lose income, and you can switch it off for another 24 hours, you realize that it's actually more of a distraction than a tool. And I love the suggestion that someone made that for that person, yes, you need to be reachable. Therefore, you need at least a palasa form, a basic form that may not have all the attractive accessories or facilities that make tips still there. If you have a phone that thieves will steal and return to you, that might be the right phone you need for a period like this.
Okay, sir. I thought you are going to chat. So another question.
Question from Emmanuel and Dokari. Emmanuel, thanks for the question. Emmanuel says, what should a HR manager do in a situation where the CEOs are not inclined in any way to support employees in any form despite the harsh reality? My suggestion, Emmanuel, would be for us to articulate whatever we are proposing that the organization should do, not only by explaining in words what the benefit will be to the business, but also to show some financial impact that such suggestion will have. I gave the example of immune boosters. If an organization has a population of 20 people, and to pay for the immune booster for those people for a month, the organization will spend 20,000 naira. All you need to show is that that will probably prevent hospital admission incidents. Show what you have had over the last 3 months, or for instance, if you've had just 2 or 3 admissions and it has cost the business about 80,000 naira, despite the HMO cover that you have, then you can show that instead of spending such 80,000 naira, spending 20,000 over a period of 3 months is 60, and you are sure that there won't be 80,000 for the next 3 months, and there won't be another 80,000 for another 3 months. I'm just picking the numbers to illustrate the fact that you can actually convince your CEO to reconsider his or her stand. And after you've done that, if the CEO is not interested, again, it's not by coercion. You can talk to the employees themselves on some of the things they could do. You could see that the list has more that the employees can do than what even the organization can do. There's a lot that employees among themselves can do to support one another? Thank you for the question, Emmanuel. Adeshawa said, I don't quite agree. I think a phone is important for everyone these days. So the person who lost the phone should definitely get another one. Okay, I think we've covered what you are saying, Adeshawa. We're not saying it's not important, and I love your suggestion that the person should get a Palasa phone. In fact, I would say the person should get a phone that's appropriate for the person's work. Palasa phone, if it is purely for social engagement, meaning people can reach you for safety, for security reasons, people should be able to reach you. But you don't want to spend 1.something million naira on iPhone 14 simply because you want to impress. The same thing that iPhone 14 would do, Techno would do, some Techno would do, and they will cost 20% of that. Somebody said, please, to Ashwebi, they bought during my occasion. How will it be when I do not buy theirs? Remind them that during your occasion, there was fuel subsidy. That will take care of it. Toyeshe, I hope you will be able to convince them that when subsidy is returned or the palliatives are in place, you will start buying Ashwebi as well. If they can wait till then, fine. If they can't, no problem. Be there physically to support them. Tolu Lokpe Ajayi says, is spending money on a relatively cost-effective gym program a monthly waste or an unessential need at this time? I'm not going to say anything that would damage any business, and I will encourage gym providers too to be creative about the service they provide. This is a time that you will challenge something like gym, because look, if I walk, I will achieve probably the same objective that I want to achieve at a gym, unless I want to develop 6 packs, maybe to be able to get, for those of you that are single, to get the wife of your dream. Otherwise, a gym at this time, well, in fact, some organizations pay a club membership subscription. It's a good time to challenge that payment and start looking at alternatives to club membership subscription payment. Yes, a phone that a team will return is a good investment. Thank you, Joel. Tolu, thanks for your question. Uche Douglas says, I think as employer, we can think of restructuring our work schedule from regular 5 days to 3 days, while we make it top with remote working. This can be of great support to employees in terms of commuting expenses. You are right, Uche. In actual fact, employers should be thinking of bringing the work closer to the employees or bringing the home of the employees closer to the work. And an option is working from home, an option is reduced work schedule, an option is staggering the resumption and closing time, and so on and so forth. Employers can do a lot in this period, but it's not every work that can be moved. There are those who work in the manufacturing operations. So one option is to stretch their shifts so that you create more gangs, and a gang can be at home while the other gang is covering for the gang that's at home. That way, they will have equal share of time they can spend at home and time they will spend at work, albeit on a stretch shift arrangement. We did that during COVID period. We should be able to bring those back now. Olale Raphael said, my question is about parenting and school books. Many textbooks produced nowadays are not like the one we used in the 90s. You're right. In fact, my own was in the late 70s and early 80s. Today's children's book will join with activity which will make children write inside the textbook. You are right. And in returns, make the textbook irrelevant for incoming siblings. What methods can we use to curb this new trend from publishers? Well, is the Olale Raphael, is the publisher's trick to generate more revenue. But now that things are tough, your parents and teachers association in the school for your children can hold meetings and agree on, changing this approach so that they go back to what we used to have, which is you have the textbook and you have the workbook. It's the workbook that should be sold every year, not the textbook. And honestly, if I have my way, part of the social investment that we should be making is probably for pupils to start writing in pencil into their textbook for teachers' assessment, and the assessment to be a separate sheet of paper. In fact, I remember my daughter's school, they used to have an assessment booklet where they write all the reports for the week and write scores and things like that. There should be a way we can separate it, where children can probably write in pencil. I don't have all the answers to this, but you've raised a very valid point, Olaleye, and we should challenge that situation because it's not business as usual. And we have to throw away all these practices that make us spend more unnecessarily. Oluwabumi Salu says, these solutions are great and will be effective in similarly large organizations. For startup, these solutions, are they applicable? You are right, Oluwabumi. It will be easier to raise the pool of people where this can be applied in larger organizations. In startup, as you rightly pointed out, my suggestion to you would be to link up with other startups that are nearby. Nearby meaning in the same zone, not necessarily the same street. So as many as possible that you can find, it would be good to pull resources together and support one another. You said, especially in startups where physical presence and low pay are applicable. Yeah, we should even challenge the physical presence bits of things. Because you have fewer people, yes, it is essential to have most of the people around, but even if it would be just 1% of the total number, if you have 5, they can release one at a time. And even if the cycle will not reach the next person until another 2 months, it will still provide some relief. Edith, you can't hear anything, and you can come and see me in the office. You work in my office, so we'll talk about it. And you have some Jara in addition. Yewande says, some people believe that organizations should benchmark employee salaries against the dollar. What would be your practical recommendation considering the cost of doing business for organizations? Look, I've heard a lot of things like, oh, why are they charging us for PMS at dollar rates? We don't hand salaries in dollars. Look, bottom line at the end of the day is we hand Naira and we spend in Naira here. Whether we like it or not, compensation benchmark will be in the currency in which the business earns, which is Naira. If there are organizations that earn in dollars, they can as well benchmark in dollars. But for organizations that earn in Naira, sorry, unfortunately, they will have to benchmark in Naira and pay in Naira. That's the way the economics works. Otherwise, we are asking the organization to go bankrupt. Joy Chima, that is, I want to do a small wedding, but my parents don't understand. They want to just believe that God will provide and rent a hall for a reception party. Please, I need wisdom to communicate. In fact, you need prayer for favor to communicate. And one way you can start, Joy, is to do a low budget, a medium budget, and the high budget of of holding the reception party in a hall. Put the 3 budgets side by side and let your parents see the spend that we are talking about. Also show them the opportunity cost in it, what you can use that saving between the low budget that you want and the high budget that they want. Let them see the difference and show them what you can do with that money in the next 2-3 years. After doing that, if they still insist, then encourage them to raise the money because, of course, I'm sure you don't have it, neither does your partner have it. So if they can raise the money, it's okay. It's their money. They can spend it the way they want. But if they want you to raise the money, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. You have the right to decide what you do with your own money. Well, our time is spent, but let me just take 1 or 2 more questions. Esther says, I had a similar experience at the beginning of the month. My phone was stolen. I went just 1 week without a smartphone, and I must tell you, it was fun. Funny, sorry, even trying to use a smartphone, it was difficult. Phone is necessity, especially now that most workplaces are practicing work from home and so on and so forth. The end point is that if you really need it, get it. That's what we said. If you are using it to do your work or generate income, so get it. When phone came into the country in 1999 or 2000, there was no smartphone. We were using the same phone that you call Palazzo phone today, which is lighter for you to carry around, was heavy. And it was even the elites that could afford it at that time. We all remember the Nokia was the exquisite one then, Nokia 3310 or whatever the number is, I can't remember now, that would drop and you pick up again. It was just basic and we were surviving. So don't, unless you are using it to make money. If you're not using it to make money, believe me, you can live without. Manufacturing cannot be done from home. I agree with you, Adeyemi Ajayi. Adora, gym by my house is not gym. They go for the dressing and I see. Watch free exercise video at home if the focus is health. Well, that's an interesting suggestion there for everyone to consider. Neka says, I would like to add considering developing skills to enhance any potential, not only for now, but for the future. I fully agree with you, especially if you are unemployed in a regular job. Keep learning, keep growing. It will be useful someday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think I've overspent the time you committed to us. You spent extra 4 minutes, and I don't want to hold you from going back to your work. Thank you very much for being here. If I missed any of your questions, please forgive me. I will encourage Kendall to compile those questions and we'll try and reach you with answer, or we post it on Kendall's site for you to view. So take responsibility. Chioma, thank you for helping me to round it up perfectly. It boils down to taking responsibility. It is right for us to normalize routine check so that we can know what we are lacking to avoid coming down with life-threatening illnesses. I agree with that. Root cause strategies remain the best. So take responsibility. There's a lot you can influence, but more important, collaborate with others. You are not alone in what you're going through. Collaborate with others. You would thank God that you do. You want to make investment, instead of saving for 5 years before you gather the money, and the money will lose value by the time you finish saving. Look for 5 other people that you'll be able to save in 1 year and get the same investment done. Look for 10 other people that you'll be able to save in 6 months, and the 10 of you. I wish you all the best. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. We appreciate this session. But before we let you go, I would like to ask one final advice. A little birdie told us that you opted for early retirement at the young age of 55. So please, what is your secret for the ability to do this? Share with us, young ones. We would like to hear from you, sir.
Well, I'm a young one myself. 3 things, this I've repeatedly shared with my friends. First is you have to desire it. See, desire has a powerful hold on our being. It unleashes the passion for you to go for it. So when you desire it, you begin to see the opportunities to do it. Most of you will notice that before you buy a particular brand of vehicle, you don't notice those vehicles on the road. But the moment you decide to buy the vehicle or you buy the vehicle, you start seeing that so many other people have the same brand of vehicle. Desire is powerful. So desire it. That's the first thing. Second thing is start preparing yourself for early retirement by cutting down on your cost of living. What scares people about retirement is how they will survive without their regular income to sustain their standard of living. That standard of living is a myth. We are the ones that decide what it will be. I give you an example. I started way back. My first official car and driver was in 1997 or 98. Before then, I had a 2-door Toyota Corolla that always breaks down, no spare tire, and so on and so forth. And from 1997 or 98 or so till today, I've been using official cars. But mind you, I never allow myself to get carried away with it. What do? Sometimes I leave the car and I go to join public transport. And those who are not used to me will see me and shout, "Hey, why? What happened?" As if somebody died. And when I ask them what they are bothered about, is just that they saw me in public transport. Where is your car? Where is your driver? I want people to get used to the fact that I have liberty to go on public transport, irrespective of the status, vehicle, and driver. Because if I did not do it, when I go into retirement and I can't afford paying for a driver or that kind of car, and they see me in public transport, they say, "Oh, he left his job and things are bad." It is that pain that makes people want to keep working until they drop dead. So I just cited that as an example. There are other things that I told myself I must define my own standard of living by what is okay for me, not what others are looking at as okay for me. When you get yourself to that point that you've defined your standard of living and your cost of living to the level that you can manage with your income, with your post-regular employment income, you will be free to retire. And that's the third point. The third point for me is to have a fixed stream of income that can pay for my standard of living. So if I want to rely on the low income I can generate from not working for flour mills to send my children to school, it won't work. My low level of income cannot send them to school. So I have to wait for my children to get out of school. I have to now look at what I'm generating outside, and there is guarantee on it, because you will still have the fluctuation. So I'm talking of the bare floor. And I said, I can feed me and my wife. How much food do we eat? We don't need Owambe clothing. The moment I'm out of paid employment, I won't buy Owambe clothing from anybody, and they know. The people that have been on my payroll all along, the moment I am out, they too, their payroll has ended. No more donation, no more come and be chairman of ceremony. I don't want to live that kind of life. And I can trek when I want. I can sleep when I want. If I don't want to knock on anybody's door for consultancy service, I have a small place where I sell mama put. That's enough to feed me. Those are the 3 steps in summary. First step, desire it. It releases your passion to go for it. Second step, define your standard of living to the level that is okay for you and your income can sustain. Number 3, you must have a fixed stream of guaranteed income that can pay for your defined standard of living. That way, you define your retirement age and you can live on time. Having said all, it's God's favor at the end of the day. It is His favor that I was able to start early. I started my career very early. At 55, I've worked for more than 31 years. I started having children early. I have 6. And 5 of them are out of the university. So only 1 is left. And I can take care of that one by God's grace. So it's God's favor, it's God's grace. But God blesses what we desire. If you set your heart to it, you pray about it, you open your eyes to look for opportunity to do it, you will do it. Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you so much for those great tips. Yeah, I see people noting in the comments, and it's been lovely. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for honoring our invite, and I'm sure everybody has shown that, yes, they really got lessons from here. We thank you so much. Do enjoy your retirement. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining our Stay Trendy webinar. meet again next month, you hear from us. We'll share the recording with everybody. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all. Thank you, my friends. I can see all of you online. Abike.